Welcome into Seattle Seahawks today. I am Tom Downey here with a look at some of the top training camp battles set to go down on the defensive side of the football, since at long last training camp is just around the corner for Seattle. First up, I got 5 I'm looking at here. That's the starting cornerbacks. Now, I feel pretty good about one of the likely starters at corner. That is DJ Reed. I feel good saying he will be a starter for this organization, given how much he played last year. And frankly, I would argue impressed. I thought he was very impressive in Seattle after being almost a free pickup after the Niners cut him and ended up emerging as a reliable player. It's the number 2 cornerback spot that's a little bit more up in the air, at least for me. Coverage stats for Ahkello Witherspoon are pretty solid. Now, it was an 11-game sample size. He wasn't a full-time starter. But these numbers are solid, and they're better. Granted, it was on a better supporting cast defense than what the Seahawks had, but these numbers are better than his top competition at the position in Tre Flowers. Those of you who have watched the show for a long time know that I'm not the biggest fan of Tre Flowers, but he has an opportunity still to earn a role, and a starting one this season for Seattle. Although I do believe that the Seahawks want Witherspoon to end up being the guy from that perspective. So pick a cornerback for me. Who do you think will start, or at least who do you want to start of these two players? Type F for Tre Flowers or type in W for Ahkello Witherspoon. Let's talk now about some of the other options here quickly on Pierre Desir. Veteran corner, bounced around a lot, hasn't been the most productive consistently, though, in his time in the NFL. There's also Demarius Randall, who, I don't think he's back to corner. Didn't play much at all last year. He's bounced around. I wonder if Desir and Randall, maybe Tre Flowers as well, are fighting for one of the last roster spots at the cornerback position. Now, who here is excited for training camp to finally arrive for the Seattle Seahawks? I know I certainly am. If you agree with me, do me a favor and like today's video. It's an easy way to add everything up versus just comments. So if you're excited for camp, like me, I'll like today's video. Like it right now. Let's go to the kind of what I'm grouping as the edge strong side linebacker rotation. This is a little bit more to talk about Darrell Taylor, who we'll get to in a second. Look, Bobby Wagner, Jordan Brooks are going to be the starters at the normal linebacker position. The strong side linebacker spot, I think, will be manned by Darrell Taylor and maybe Aldon Smith. More on him coming up in a second. The Seahawks are playing Taylor more, at least I think they're going to, at strong side linebacker to get him on the field. That role in what this Seahawks defense will look like is not that different than a 3-4 outside linebacker role. Yes, he's going to be lined up on the edge. Yes, he will drop into coverage at points. No, he's not going to be lined up over offensive guards in pretty much all situations. So that is a role that Taylor has played before, and I still believe, and we'll see how right I am as we get to camp in the preseason and the games that matter, is going to be a good one for Taylor. He's done it before. And it also allows you to get him on the field when you've got great depth and talent at the edge rusher position. Look, I've got, in the end, 8 guys listed here on our defensive end depth chart. Consider it your pass rusher depth chart. Carlos Dunlap, Benson Mayowa, Kerry Hyder, Alton Robinson, and then you've got guys like L.J. Collier, Rasheem Green, more on them in a second, who could also play some of those, I'd argue more interior defensive line roles. Maybe Mayowa or Dunlap maybe could stand up some if you really ask them to. But that kind of hybrid outside linebacker, strong side linebacker role is really focused more on Darrell Taylor, and I'll also mention Aldon Smith. We'll see if he's there and cleared at camp. He's obviously facing yet another legal issue off the field. Seattle brought him in. They got him on the cheap. We'll have to wait and see just what type of role he ends up having, if any, for this Seahawks team in 2021. Now, not as mentioned before, maybe you saw at the bottom of your screen, Fanatics, they've got some t-shirts and hats on sale. In fact, it's a combo pack for you guys. Chatsports.com/12combo. 40% off on this t-shirt and hat. Normally very expensive because it's NFL licensed deal, but they're on sale. And that t-shirt is awesome, by the way. The green and the gray is a perfect match. I'll put the link in the comment section and the description for you guys, but it's chatsports.com/12combo. Let's talk defensive tackles, as kind of teased here. It's a different group this year for Seattle. Poona Ford is back, and that is awesome, and there are some other depth pieces, Brian Monet, Cedric Latimer. I get that. What I am intrigued by is what the roles will look like for guys like L.J. Collier and Rasheem Green. But I'm focusing more here on defensive tackle number 2 and the depth. Poona Ford is now this team's top interior player. And although I'm hoping for more of an impact in the pass rushing game, that's by no means guaranteed. But I do think the Seahawks are planning here on giving Poona Ford more of a role in that area. I think they're counting on him becoming more of an impact pass rusher. That's why they brought in a guy like Al Woods, who is old. I was a little surprised to how much they gave him at his current age, having opted out last year. But he's going to be a run stopper. That's going to be his main role. But the team still must truly replace, especially on third downs, Jarran Reed. Now, I think Ford can help fill in that role. But I am of the mindset, both hopes and predictions, that L.J. Collier can emerge in more of that typical 3-technique, pass-rushing focused, penetrating, disruptive defensive tackle. He was much improved last season. Now, to be fair, that's not necessarily a huge growth. It does bear mentioning that he was bad his first year, and second year was better, more promise, more impact, more potential shown. But I'm hoping that a potential more full-time move to the interior of the defensive line, where he played over a third of his snaps last year, will result in more production. Rasheem Green is a very similar style player, listed at 6'4", like 280. He can kick into the interior as needed. In fact, he was way more impactful in 2019, where 4 of his sacks and a good portion of his tackles for loss all came from 4 and 3, respectively, over his NFL career. But he thought a favor last year amid injury. What is his role going to be this season? The ultimate wild card, meanwhile, on the interior defensive line is Robert Nkemdiche, former first-round pick, incredibly talented, gifted, very, very, very good football player. At his potential, what we've seen on the field, Nkemdiche hasn't been good at all. Very little impact, almost all of that production coming in 1 year with the Arizona Cardinals. The potential to be that very, very good football player, is it still there? We'll find out in camp. He is an absolute wild card. And I do want to apologize to guys like, Brian Monet, Cedric Lattimore. I think backup run stoppers, but I'm more focused on this as it relates to the roster battle for who's going to play the most and especially impact you more in the passing side of the ball. Passing side of the game, I guess. That's weird. Anyway, defensive tackle number 2. Pick one for me. Type RG for Rasheem Green. Type LJ for LJ Collier. Type AW for Al Woods. Or you can type in O for other. And if you're typing in O for other, let me know who you're thinking it's going to be in the comments section. Now, if you guys want more training camp coverage of the Seahawks, some news, rumors, winners, losers, injuries if they unfortunately happen, hope they don't, hit that big red button and subscribe. That way you don't miss out on anything here at Seattle Seahawks Today. Nickel corner now, as that's a very popular focus of today's defense video. The edges are great. The linebackers are pretty set. Look, we've only got a couple positions, right? Two-man race. Marquise Blair, Ugo Amadi. Blair won the job last year after making the move from safety, but then he got hurt. He missed most of the season. So, yes, there's potential. Yes, there have been flashes. We haven't seen Marquise Blair do it yet, though. His coverage stats are fine. I mean, they're not exactly impactful, and it's tough to really judge him because it's been such a small sample size. But I think if you were to get an honest answer out of Seattle, they would tell you that they want Marquise Blair to be the guy, more so than they really want Ugo Amadi to end up being the guy. Now, Amadi's fine. If you got to play him at nickel, you're probably okay. And he's been pretty solid in coverage. He hasn't been beat very often. Reach-range is a bit high. That's the case how it is for all nickel corners because it's a lot of short, quick passes. They just tend to get beat there. So Seattle will be okay, I believe, regardless of who ends up starting at nickel. but I want you guys to pick your preferred answer for me anyway. Type A for Ugo Amadi or type in B for Marquise Blair. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. And we end now back where we began, at the cornerback position. This time, the backups. I think DJ Reed, Ugo Amadi, and Marquise Blair are all going to make the roster. So that's 3 roster locks. I think Ahkello Witherspoon also makes it. So that's 4. Now, that leaves 2, maybe 3, but I think 3's pushing it then for the aforementioned Tre Flowers. And I think Tre Brown, in all likelihood, also ends up making this football team. A rookie out of Oklahoma. He's built in the DJ Reed mold. So that means 1, 2 spots for the other guys we briefly mentioned earlier. First up, Demarius Randall. Was a safety, drafted as a corner, then moved to safety, then back to corner, then back to safety, and now back at corner again for Seattle. Spent time with the team last year. They're giving him a shot. Will they earn it? I don't know. Now, you see Pierre Desir with 3 interceptions, 8 pass breakups. You go, okay, this guy's not too bad. He can make some plays for me on the football. He got beat a lot for the Jets and the Ravens last year. So this is a true training camp roster battle. They are fighting for a spot on the 53-man roster, which won't be determined, of course, until all the way through the preseason.